In the headlines, bandits set ablaze Catholic seminarian in fresh Kaduna attack. Kaduna community worried over declining state of health center. Global rice prices surge 15-year high after India bans overseas rice exports. Also in the news, UK marks first anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death. Hello there, welcome to the news update on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. We begin in Kaduna as a seminarian, Stephen Namangofe, was on Thursday night set ablaze when bandits attacked a church at the Catholic Parish House, Kamantong Zongon Kataf local government area of Kaduna State, setting the church ablaze. Now, the parish in Kamantong is under the Catholic Diocese of Kafangchang in Jemaah local government area of the state. Now, newsmen gathered that the attackers stormed the parish house at about 8 p.m. and set it ablaze alongside a vehicle. Sources say the deceased seminarian died from the smoke he inhaled while trying to escape from the grasp of his attackers. Now, when contacted, the Kaduna State Police Command Public Relations Officer, Assistant Superintendent of Police Mansur Al-Hassan, confirmed the incident. Two others who were also in the building when the incident happened escaped the inferno and kidnapped by the attackers. Still talking security, the theater commander of Operation Hatinkai, Major General Gold Chibusi, has appealed to defense correspondents and the media outfits across Nigeria to sustain the tempo of peace reporting through their reportage and editorials to help put an end to the insurgency in northeast Nigeria. The appeal was part of a media parley held with journalists in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. Here's Bitrus Kurusi with the rest of the story.
Over the years, the Nigerian Army has been conducting numerous operations in the northeast with the aim of dislodging terrorism and restoring peace. Beyond its military approach, much support is needed from the media to help build peace and counter-insurgency operations, which is why strong collaboration and synergy with the media is paramount.
Permit me to state that the kinetic approach in any asymmetric war constitutes just 20%. Your efforts in passing the right information, sensitizing the civil populace in support of our operations, as well as the peace efforts, constitute the non-kinetic approach to the counter-insurgency operations.
The Nigerian Army said it is still willing and courageous to end the long years conflict and allow peace in the region, adding that it will not relent in its offensive operations should non-actors fail to drop arms.
It is clear that many of the terrorists too are tired of fighting. They are hungry and wish to abandon the negative life they have lived in the bush all through these years without hope of having a better and fulfilled life. Yes, the military will not relent until the last member of the force is put out of action and a peaceful, stable and prosperous atmosphere restored to the theater area of operation.
It is expected that journalists will reflect the essence of peace and nation building in its reportage as the conflict draws to a conclusion in the northeast region. Bitrus Kurusi, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
Now, a man suspected to be a power cable vandal has reportedly been electrocuted at the premises of a Niger State Printing Press in Keterang, Gwari local government area of Mina, the state capital. Staff of the agency said the lifeless body of the suspect was found with some of the vandalized armored cables stuck to his hands near the transformer that supplies power to the agency on Friday morning. The staff said the suspect reportedly gained entrance into the premises of the agency through the back where the fence had collapsed, adding that he had already vandalized some of the armored cables when the power was restored in the night, killing him on the spot. When contacted, the United States Police Command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Wasiu Abiodun confirmed this development. The head of the legal department of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, Niger Regional Office, Aminu Ibeto, also confirmed the development. A middle-aged boy, whose name was given as Ikechi, has killed his father with a pestle at a part of Obio Akpo local government area of Rivers State. Trust TV learned that the suspect has requested an undisclosed amount of money from the father and became infuriated when the father refused to give him the money. An eyewitness says the enraged boy, who was said not to be happy over the father's refusal to give him the money, got hold of a pestle and smashed the father's head. Now, the witness says the deceased died on the spot. When contacted the River State Police Command, a public relations officer, Superintendent Grace Iringe Koko, confirmed the story, adding that the suspect has already been arrested by the police. The murder of a 200-level student of nursing at the Federal University of Oye Ekiti, Modupe Atanda, has thrown the institution and the state into mourning. The victim had earlier in the week been declared missing within the school premises, but was later found buried in a shallow grave in a bush on the campus ground after more than a 24-hour search. Now, the management of the institution had announced temporary shutdown of the school to ensure law and order is maintained. Meanwhile, the police had debunked claims of missing body parts of Modupe, saying some arrests have already been made regarding the matter. The Bayelsa State Police Commissioner CP Tolani Alausa has ordered the constant raid of flashpoints and criminal hideouts across the state. The State Police Command also reject its security architecture to confront the security challenges associated with the Ember months. A statement on Friday through the Police Public Relations Officer, Superintendent Asinim Buswat, says the Commissioner charged divisional police officers, tactical commanders and other operatives to constantly raid flashpoints and criminal hideouts to intensify surveillance and patrols in the nooks and crannies of the state and remain on alert at all times. Now, the police affirmed its commitment to public safety and reducing crimes to the barest minimum. It also commended the public for its support and assistance with useful information about activities of criminals in their communities. Away from security now, in health, the state of the primary healthcare center at Rigasa community in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State has become a thing of concern for most residents in the community. Now, this is due to the poor hygiene and lack of health facilities and drugs for effective healthcare delivery at the primary healthcare center. Bello Musa has more.
Rigasa is a community with a sizable population in Kaduna State. This primary health center is one of the few health facilities that people rely on for medical attention, but it is in a sorry state now due to unhygienic environment and poor facility. According to the resident, the condition of the health facilities has become a source of concern for families and pregnant women and children in the community now find it difficult to access medical attention. There is no decent restroom and a place to look after the sick. The hospital is no longer a health facility because it is in a dilapidated state. The hospital needs attention from the government. When in labor, the women in the community suffer as they only go to the general hospital in Rigasa or to private health facilities to deliver their babies, no matter how urgent the cases are. The residents are appealing to the local government to come to their aid as the facility is under the local government. We want the government to employ more workers, stock more prescriptions, drugs, and provide the necessary facilities. In fact, the hospital cannot cater for the needs of our population. We are calling on the government to come to our aid and renovate the hospital because it is the health facility that is close to us. This will enable us rush our children, pregnant women, and the aged to the facility in case of an emergency. We need more beds in the hospital and more qualified workers. Effort to reach the chairman of Igabi local government were futile. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
In Ondo State, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu returned to Nigeria on Thursday after 3 months of medical leave in Germany. With a single worded post on X, formerly known as Twitter, the governor's wife, Betty Anyao Akeredolu, announced his return with the quote, homebound. Now, the post was accompanied by a photo of the governor seated on an aircraft or in an aircraft. Details about the nature of his illness has not been disclosed to the public. Responding to the death rumors involving the governor back in June this year, the State Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Bamidele Ademola Olateju, urged residents and members of the public to disregard the speculation. Now, this followed concerns about the true state of the governor's health. The governor was reported to be out of the state without officially transferring power to his deputy, Lucky Ayetadiwa. Now, it was later revealed that Akeredolu was embarking on medical leave abroad when the Speaker of the Ondo State House of Assembly, Olamide Oladiji, confirmed receipt of a notice from the governor. You're watching the news update on Trust TV. Coming up ahead after the break, we take a look at young Kano innovators as they continue to make breakthrough in science and technology. Details of this and many more coming up ahead after the break. Welcome back to the news. Here's a quick reminder of our top stories at this hour. Bandits attack seminary in Kaduna, killing one person. Now, Nigeria's lack of stable running water and poor toilet facilities has left many citizens exposed to all kinds of diseases. Now, lack of running potable water is a major contributing factor to poor hygiene, and in a bid to find cleaner, less infectious spaces to, quote, do their businesses, several Nigerians are left with few options like street corners, bushes, and dark alleys notorious for attacks. Now, the coverage these dangerous spots give perpetrators leaves their victims vulnerable, unsuspecting, unprepared, and at the mercy of some of these criminals.
One of such crimes perpetrated against Nigerians in vulnerable states is that of sexual gender-based violence, SGBV. Sexual gender-based violence has remained a menace to the Nigerian society, showing very little signs of slowing down. Experts believe it can be traced to poor toilet facilities and inadequate attention to water sanitation and hygiene, otherwise known as WASH.
You know, people are talking about infrastructures. Now, some of the infrastructures they are using in the public places are not in tune with the present day realities. How do we come up with infrastructure that will speak, you know, to best global realities, you know, in recent times? So those are part of the things, you know, that we have been talking about, you know, advocating, talking to different stakeholders, then enlightening public about how they can keep the environment clean, you know, again, about how, you know, we can mitigate the issue of SGBV, so that at the end of the day, people will get to know about it. We need to create a lot of awareness and advocacy around it for the stakeholders, for people to really know what are the examples of SGBV. There are so many.
The United Nations Population Fund says 1 in 3 women will have experienced gender-based violence by the age of 15 and are stigmatized by the society despite being victims. On the flip side, some women are perpetrators of SGBV, but there is very little information to show the prevalence of the menace against men, which indicates that society has ignored the plight of men who are being abused.
So rape is something that we have to frown against, everybody, whether you are a man or a woman, whether you are a girl or a boy. So, and that's exactly why we are putting out sensation there, then encouraging victims to speak up. But again, when we are doing that, we have to be very careful. Careful in the sense that we need to protect the identity of the victim.
The act of shaming victims of SGBV is an act which must come to a permanent end to encourage victims of both genders to speak up. Legal processes must also ensure justice for victims, while the judiciary must instill harsher punishments that will deter perpetrators. Traditional and religious leaders also have a role to play.
For the traditional, if it warrants us still having a little bit of that little traditional call to serve as deterrent to this kind of menace, we might have to invoke the gods, because these creatures were bound to be respected. They should be respected because God did not create us for abuse. We will have a last call center to answer, and that is the call of God to answer what were our responsibility as traditional rulers and as religion leaders of those societies.
Stakeholders agree that parents need to be more involved in the lives of their children to provide guidance in order to curtail the menace of SGBV in Nigeria. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
In Kano, a set of 12-year-old twins have invented a cooking gas that uses petrol and water, while a 14-year-old has also invented a remote-controlled vehicle. Trust TV's Idris Jibrin reports that an application that allows people to purchase food items directly from the farm has also been developed as part of a program. His report.
Supported by the Center for Information Technology and Development, these young boys had taken the initiative of inventing items that could be of great importance to the nation's economy if perfected.
In this country, two things are lacking. First thing that is lacking is that we have no venture capital. Venture capitals are people who come and listen to these ideas and then put money. Look, this idea is good. I am investing into it. And they put money and say, okay, if I go and develop this, I own 40% of what your business will become. It's just confidence. So we have no that. But we also don't have interaction between innovators and media.
Hassan and Usaini invented a cooking gas that uses both petrol and water to function, while Muazzam Ibrahim invented a remote-control ambulance vehicle. Other inventions by these young boys include CCTV camera, a mobile application that allows farmers to sell their farm produce directly from farm, among others.
So the essence of the application is for farmers to sell their product directly from their farm. Not just individual peoples or users can just open the application and see all the products available in someone's farm.
According to CITED, the initiative was supported to give these young ones the opportunity to prove themselves into the world of science and technology.
There's nothing I cherish like seeing young people coming up with ideas that people can appreciate. This is what we need in this country. And if we can develop these young minds, I always tell them, We have talent in this country. All we need is the correct environment. See, if you have not been brought out from where you are, would you ever think of doing all these things that you have done?
For these young scientists, if supported, there will be plenty of innovative ideas to be developed for the overall growth and development of the nation's economy. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, talking business now, global prices of rice has reached a 15-year high in the month of August after top exporter India banned some overseas sales of the grain. The Food and Agriculture Organization said in a statement released on Friday. While global food prices eased in August, those of rice rose to 9.8% compared to the previous month, reflecting trade disruptions in the aftermath of a ban on indica, or white rice, which is an export from India. Now, the FAO said in a statement in its monthly report. Rice is a major world food staple, and prices on international markets have soared in the wake of COVID pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and the impact of El Nino weather phenomenon on production levels. Now, India announced in July a ban on exports of non-basmati white rice, which accounts for around a quarter of its total. Now, the Consumption Affairs and Food Ministry said at a time that the world would, quote, ensure adequate availability and allay the rise in the prices in domestic markets. Now, stakeholders in Nigeria are raising serious concerns over the worsening case of child malnutrition across the country, especially as prices of food continue to skyrocket. Now, they're calling on the government and stakeholders to act promptly to address child malnutrition across Nigeria. Hamid Oyegbade reports.
The nutrition and food security in Nigeria have become issues of serious concern as the cost of living soars due to skyrocketing prices of food. According to the KEDA Harmonized 2023 data, 17.7 million people in Nigeria are hungry. The recent fuel subsidy removal compounded the situation. The children are the worst hit, as 23.5 million children in the country are said to be suffering from anemia, with 12 million stunted, while 3 million are ill due to malnutrition.
I remember during the antenatal days, they tell us whatever we eat now will add up to their brain development. And of course, any child that is not brainy ends up being dull, and then the future is, of course, a very bad one.
Because normally before, the money that we used to buy multiple things, you use it and buy one thing, and it's affecting us. It's affecting the poor masses. We can't feed.
Many of them now, they are not going to school because there is no money in the country. There is no job. So that is why it affected the children, because when it affected the father and the mother, it will affect the children.
When the child is hungry, the child begins to think things that are negative. The child will think about positive. The child is not thinking about tomorrow.
The United Nations Children Fund is calling on the government to scale up the implementation of preventive actions and also to provide access to treatment of all forms of malnutrition.
So the nutrition situation in the country now is one that requires urgent attention, and we also need to focus and see how we can implement preventive actions to prevent malnutrition from even happening in the first place. But then when we are unable to prevent, and in order to respond to the children and the populations who are currently suffering from malnutrition, put in place treatment and facilitate access to treatment of all forms of malnutrition so that we can have a healthier population that can contribute to our economic growth.
Nigerians also want the government to address the malnutrition challenge so that the nation can produce healthy children with sound minds. Hamid Oyegbade reporting for Trust TV.
On the international scene, ceremonial gunfire rang out across the UK on Friday to mark the ascension of King Charles III as he pays tribute to his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, on the first anniversary of her death. The King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery fired a 41-gun accession salute in London's Hyde Park, followed by a 62-gun salute from the Tower of London. Guns were also fired from Edinburgh Palace, or Castle rather, in the Scottish capital in Cardiff, in Wales, and in Hillsborough Castle in Northern Ireland. Commemorations of the Queen's death were low-key on Friday, with the King, who is at his sprawling Scottish Highlands estate of Balmoral, not expected at any official engagement. In a short statement, the 74-year-old British head of state recalled the, quote, great affection for his mother, her life and public service. The King and his wife, Camilla, attended Crathy Kirk, the late monarch's palace, or rather place of worship near Balmoral, for private prayers and a moment of reflection. Charles, dressed in a red tartan kilt, talked to well-wishers outside the church premises after the event. Now, the Queen, who was on the throne for a record 70 years, died on September last year at Balmoral Castle at the age of 96 after a period of declining health. Flowers were left at the gates of Balmoral while crowds gathered at Buckingham Palace, and floral tributes were also left. Well, that's it. You're up to date with the latest news stories at this hour. Feel free, as always, to follow us across our social media platforms for more content, and visit trusttv.com for more news. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for watching.